Hi there. Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and this channel is called English Coach. Today, I'm going to tell you why you're not happy. Okay, so I'd like to go through a few reasons. Let's start off with high expectations. Now, in previous videos on my channel, I've already mentioned that high expectations bring pain. And so when you have high expectations of things, it could be your achievements, it could be your relationships, it could be the outcome to a day at the beach. But when your expectations are very high, what actually happens is you go through your day monitoring what was not checked off on the happy list. And what happens as a result of that is you get a little bit frustrated. And in fact, that frustration builds into something that resembles unhappiness. Okay, for the short term, generally, when we're measuring small things like a day at the beach, but also for bigger things, relationships that didn't work out, job opportunities that were lost, and etc. 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 You shouldn't use the word etc., but I did. What can you do? Okay, because I have low expectations. I don't expect too much of myself. Therefore, I can use words like etc. because I'm quite happy. But I'm not always happy. I'm just pretty much contented. And that's a better word to describe perhaps a healthy way to be happy rather than to expect to be close to ecstatic or very happy every day. Another thing that stops people from being happy, and it's been all over the internet, all over YouTube, all over every social media, is the idea that you can either be happy or you can be right. You cannot be both. A certain amount of people derive great satisfaction out of being right or winning the argument or winning the conversation. But then what happens? They sacrifice their relationships with that person or their opportunities on that occasion. So, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? It's actually a lot deeper than that, though, because there's something sad within us when we are trying to prove others wrong, when we are trying to be the person who is right or the guide in the situation, the person who can correct other people. Generally, there's something that needs to be corrected in ourselves, and as a result, we feel less, we feel not quite up to the job, perhaps. We feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Undervalued, perhaps. And therefore, we need to show others that we're right, that something needs to be corrected, and we are the ones to correct it. And therefore, we become that person, the person who corrects others, the person who, has done the research, who has looked at the stats, and is going to correct everybody, or is going to at least put forward a very convincing argument and push that argument past the level of awkward. So, why does that cause unhappiness? Because it generally manifests from the place where you live, which could be with your family. That could include your mother and your father, or your girlfriend, or your wife, or your boyfriend, or your husband, or your brother, or your sister, or your best friends. And this kind of thing, this kind of relationship, when you are correcting others, often backfires. They're not very appreciative of your correction. In fact, to the contrary, they're quite fed up with it or in the process of getting fed up with it. So that also creates a lot of sadness for you. Then we have something that I found the other day, I came across, and I found it does occur in cultures where you've got a lot of organization within the society, but tends to be quite a destructive force, which is the notion of honor. The notion of honor. It's something that existed in places like Scotland, uh, a lot, I think, in Scandinavia, perhaps, in Japan, in some colder climate places, basically. Of course, it manifested in different ways in tropical places as well, but it could be found highest in cooler places with generally very high suicide rates, which is honor. So when people talk about honor, oh, you need to honor this, you need to honor that. Honor is this gift, this responsibility, this duty that you have to keep all appearances clean and to give the world the impression that you are at a certain level and that you're trying to show others that you have these qualities that can never be beaten. It's an extremely dangerous position to put yourself in if you're taking it seriously. I say if you're taking it seriously because I think a lot of people talk about honor and they don't know the true definition of honor. Honor is when you don't have a choice. So if you make a mistake, basically you have to kill yourself because you besmirched or you stained your reputation. So if you live in a culture of honor or if you live in a mindset of honor, you're a very unhappy person with great expectations of others and yourself. And therefore, it could be a military family where certain subjects are taboo and where dialogue and communication are taboo. There'll always be one member or two members of the family being kind of cut to shreds emotionally by that. Other members who are more reserved to themselves and have a personality in which they don't need to express, they thrive in those environments. But there's always a percentage of the family, maybe up to 25%, 30%, that need to express their feelings about things and become sick and kind of damaged from not being able to express themselves. So honor, I think, is a really nice example of a source of unhappiness and pride. I would say the honor that comes from pride and pride as a rule as well. And it can be connected to being right, okay? So these are some of the things that create your happiness. If I can talk to you maybe for 2 minutes about something that is a good example of creating happiness, steering away from these concepts of expectations, correcting others, and personal honor, for example, I would say finding things that can be an external manifestation of something within you, but you can measure over time. You don't have to measure them in 1 week or 1 day. It's not one of these tests that you need to do in 2 hours and then you'll be evaluated and the rest of your life will be decided on that. It's more like something that you choose to do in your lifetime. Could be a small habit that you slowly develop, and that kind of gives you a base or a platform for other small habits to come about, and that you derive satisfaction from these habits, whether they're more on the fitness level or more on the intellectual level or more on the curiosities level. Any of these levels that kind of engage you and touch you in a way that connects you to your personality and your passions, the things you really want to do inside you. And then as you're doing those little habits, as you're continuing doing them, you get that very, very, very strong connection with progress. And we've got a lot of I guess you could call them authority figures for the self-help world, who say things like progress is the meaning of life, or progress is the closest you can get to happiness. And to some degree, I agree with that. I think we have to have other things, like we have to have spontaneity. We have to have reflection. We have to have times when we are putting something diversified or something different in our life so that we can test our autopilot, you know. But progress is definitely one of those KPIs for happiness. If you're monitoring a few little habits that you like doing in your life and you're monitoring them, you've got a high chance of being happy. It's not about intensity. It's not about doing a good job on one day. It's about continuing those small habits, not putting in too much time or effort on one day, but continuing either day after day or week after week, depending on your frequency, and continuing those nice habits in your life. So basically, just to backtrack and give you my message of the day on this wonderful, beautiful Sunday here in Brazil, we'll start it with this, that the first thing about being happy is, keep your expectations low. If you're going on a holiday, if you're expecting something of other people, cut that expectation in half and, develop a little bit more patience in that case, okay? Second point, don't correct others as much. If you think that you can correct them politely in a way that person would appreciate, maybe it's a great idea, but make sure your intention is right. Third thing, honor and pride. Discard these things, nobody is God. Nobody is God here. A few people pretend to be God, but just have to tolerate them, You have to tolerate them. And the fourth thing is, just to end the video today, is for you to develop sustainable habits that connect with who you are, connect with your personality. Because when you have those sustainable habits, you never give them up, and you're always performing and you're always monitoring, and you can see yourself getting better and better. And this, we like to speak really badly about the ego, but the ego is shared or is sharing a space with your self-esteem. So without any ego, you don't have a self-esteem as well. So you do need to worry about how you feel about yourself, and achieving things is, we could say it's a cheap way to get a healthy self-esteem, but sometimes it's quite necessary to be productive in achieving things so that you can look at yourself in a different way and just remember what you're capable of. Sometimes we forget how much we're capable of, and we need something very, very rough or very, simple to remind us that we're capable of a lot more than we think in the long term, especially. Okay, thank you for being here with me today on English Coach, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Like the video, dislike the video, subscribe and leave a comment, and I'll see you on the next one here at English Coach.